is not separate from policy. We certainly have to understand that activism is a vehicle through which policy moves. And so it's important that young people understand that both are connected, that you push people to do things and to become active for a reason, for a substantive reason. And that substantive reason is usually public policy.
A lot of young progressives are, for better or for worse, directed into more grassroots organizing and activism, which is not a bad thing at all. I think that's actually a very important experience for all of us to have. But we haven't had these paths created for some of us to then take that experience and the passion and the knowledge that we get from that experience and bring it into the public policy field, where we can also obviously, make a big difference.
So as a progressive think tank, the Drum Major Institute would get phone calls from progressive elected officials, from organizations, candidates saying, do you have any young people who can work for us? Do you have people who can do policy, people who would want to be a legislative aide, people who would want to write my issues platform for my campaign? And unfortunately, the answer too often was no. And so as a think tank that is dedicated to generating the tools that enable people to advance a progressive agenda, we needed to redefine what we meant by tools. So it used to be research or models of effective public policy, and then we realized one of the tools that we needed to provide if we really want to see a progressive agenda is the young people who can do the policy analysis to drive that agenda.
Responding to this challenge, DMI Scholars identifies progressive college students from underrepresented communities and trains them in the skills necessary to succeed in public policy. In the first year, DMI received 10 applications for every available slot. The centerpiece of the program is a 2-week summer institute in New York City. Core curriculum in policy analysis and power analysis is combined with debates, media critique sessions, field trips, guest speakers, workshops, and networking events. Throughout the following years, scholars are provided training to further develop their analytical, writing, and career readiness skills. They reconvene the following spring to gain more interaction with progressive leaders in the field, and then DMI places them in an internship the following summer. Let's meet the scholars.
So I always wanted to think about a policy very holistically. I've done a lot of work with youth, and I see how sometimes we don't make the connection of how things that are going on in the community are played out in a process that ends up somewhere in a closed room with people sitting around a table. And so I really wanted to see what that process was.
Too often there's a disconnect between sort of some of the activist work that a lot of us do and some of the hard analysis that sometimes convinces policymakers. So I think it's really important to be able to speak that different language.
The guest speakers really take their experience and bring it to the table so that we can relate our experiences with theirs, ask questions, and really get to know what people in the public policy sector, in the public sector are doing.
In thinking about social justice and what it means, how to really affect social change, I think there needs to be a multi-pronged, a multi-dimensional approach to mobilizing for social change. And I think public policy is one area that goes really well with community-based organizing, and I think that is community-based organizing is kind of where I'm coming from, and I think that to link the two is really important.
There's been so many fun things, I can't possibly select one. There was speed writing a memo in an hour, there was the policy debate, then there was the 2-week project which resulted in a 30-minute grilling by 3 experts. And actually though, I loved all of them. And anyone who loves policy, anyone who loves the process of government will love all of them.
policy sphere tends to be very white, it tends to be older, and there isn't an emerging generation of new voices, and unless the training is intentional and the outreach and development really advances people through a career trajectory and provides them with the skills necessary to be effective policymakers, then you won't see those new voices emerging.
As an elected official, I'm always looking for young, talented people who can help with policy and have strong writing skills. DMI Scholars is putting that talent out in the marketplace.
I think it's important to develop policy talent in the progressive movement for a number of reasons, but primarily because the progressive movement has been at the forefront at some of the most significant changes in our country that have been about improving the lives of Americans everywhere, whether it's in labor rights or improving education or providing more quality and affordable health care. And so to the extent that we have greater policy expertise within the progressive community, that enables us as a community to better advance the agenda to help address so many difficult issues that aren't being addressed now as they should.
Part of the reason that we wanted to create DMI Scholars is because in 20 years we want everyone who is actually running and directing policy on every level of government to consider DMI and the DMI Scholars program to be their home. So this program is key not only to the future of the movement, but to our organizational sustainability and our role in that movement.